So a lot of good stuff that people actually, big-time investors, flippers in Pittsburgh doing that stuff, and it's actually very cool. So the buying side, just wait some people come in a little bit. Over there. For the buying side, we're going to cover where do you find the houses at, how much should you pay for a house, essentially, and then how to structure a deal, how do you get money to buy the house, unless you have some here for your own, which is nice, and then how do you protect yourself, because flipping, it's a legal transaction, so you want to make sure that somebody doesn't move in, or anything like that, which usually they don't. There's easy ways to protect yourself in that regards. So for buying the house, does anybody here know what the MLS is? By show of hands, just raise it if you know what the hell the MLS is. All right, not a lot of people. So who here knows what Trulia or Zillow is? Okay, everyone seems to know what that is. For real estate agents, the MLS is like Trulia or Zillow. It's just a lot easier to use because you can just type in a 2-bedroom in this square mile radius or in this zip code, and it'll just pull up an instant list. And it's very easy to use, very quick, and I can show you guys what that looks like from the back end too. So it's pretty easy to find deals for that. You can also have, if you don't have access to MLS, you can ask any agent to set up an automatic email search for you. So if you just want to go for a particular place or a specific price range, you can get an email the second the house goes on the market. With Trulia and Zillow, you can have email alerts, but you're going to get it maybe 2-3 days after it's on the market because of the lag time. By that time, if it's a good deal, it's probably gone, to be honest, because there's around 1,000 flippers in Pittsburgh. They don't check every day or on top of as much as they should be because they have a lot of other things to be occupied with, but for new investors, you can always keep a good beat on it. Then, who here, by show of hands, has no idea what a wholesaler is? If no one raises their hand, that means everyone knows what a wholesaler is. So, everyone knows what a wholesaler is? What's a wholesaler? What do you think a wholesaler is? You should raise your hand then. All right, it's good to raise your hand so you don't get caught on. Wholesaler, let's see. Where's Ryan? Okay, what's a wholesaler?
It's a person who tries to sell a house without an agent, and you find motivated sellers, and if you can make a deal go through, you make the profit between the seller and the person who buys the house, who's usually an investor.
Okay, so pretty much you find someone who wants to sell a house, you say, I'll sell your house for you. They say, all right, great. And you find someone who will pay more than what they want, and you make the difference. So you can make quite a bit doing that. But also, if you find someone who has a house that is up for sale, it's a limited market that they have. So John back there, he wholesales houses. So if he has a house that's going to flip, I might have a buyer as a real estate that wants to buy that house. That's another great resource for foreclosures. That's back to the bank thing where obviously a house goes into foreclosure. It's really cheap half the time, and it's really in bad shape, which is great for flipping because most owner occupants don't live there. Estates are my personal favorite, which is, it sounds wrong, it's really dark, but like when people pass away, usually other people inherit the property and they have nothing invested into it, and it's pretty much they just get whatever the sale is. So if you knock them down $5,000, they say, well, I'm still getting 50 or I'm still getting 60 or like 200, and it's not a big deal to them, it's still getting paid regardless. Also, there might be like 10 people that are inheriting the property, like 10 kids, and if you knock them down to 10,000, that's 1,000 out of each pocket, not 10,000 out of one pocket. So you can really get some crazy good deals. And there's creative ways you can find estate sales, like just going to places where they sell like furniture on Craigslist that are for estate sales. You can just walk in and say like, are you looking to sell your house? And usually they'll be like, yeah, we need to sell it. We're going to sell everything else inside of it first. You can just buy it with everything in there and then sell it to other people at the estate sale. Sheriff sales, they're a little more dangerous or risky. So if there's back taxes at all, so people just don't have a house anymore because they couldn't pay their taxes, so municipalities just kind of claim their house as theirs. If you buy a house at a sheriff's sale, you have no idea what kind of losses are tied to it. So you could buy it and find out there's $40,000 in back taxes you have to pay additionally to the property. I don't like sheriff's sales because it's a lot of risk. Question?
If there are back taxes or tax liens on the property, you can find that out if you want to go dig through the vast library, the recorder of deeds downtown in the city county building. It's bigger than just about any building in Pittsburgh that, or on Pitt's campus, but if you can pick out the right volumes and start going through, it'll reference a different volume. You can go back and dig. It takes a long time, but there's a lot of money to be made if you're willing to put the work in.
Yeah, you can. Honestly, if you guys want to do that, you want to do it. I'm a realtor, so the last thing I want to do is like put way too much work in before I make any money or have potential to make money. So I know you had a couple hours on houses before, and a couple don't work out, a couple do work out. So there is some risk to anything you're kind of doing with it where you don't do your due diligence. So I guess for everything on the top of that, there's less due diligence than there is in the sheriff sales. You just have more work to do. So if you miss anything or if you're not familiar with it, you could potentially miss something, which is why it's a little bit riskier. And then FSBOs for sale by owners. Somebody just wants to sell their house. They're not using a realtor, so they're not paying a commission, and they're also not familiar with the market. So you can usually, if you know a little bit more than they do, or if you're just very persuasive, you can put a low offer and typically get a pretty good deal. And then for Craigslist, you can literally just go on Craigslist and look for houses and send people emails. You don't ever have to call anybody and set up appointments, and you can make offers, through the internet pretty much, which is very time leverage and convenient, especially if you guys just don't want to time people on the phone. And then there are like a lot of other ways. So does anybody have any ideas on like other ways you might go to buy a house? Just like any idea? I'll give you guys a couple. A lot of sales happen through family, so like their parents sell it to their kids or something like that. So you might have, a neighbor that wants to sell their house, and you live next to them and you know them personally, and they want to move out and retire, and you can say, hey, I'm actually a real estate investor now, and you can, pretty much buy the house from them because they know you. They usually give you a better deal. Also, it's just weird how people buy houses. You can knock on some people's doors and just find the crappiest house that needs to be flipped. And if it looks vacant, typically it is, and you can just go on the internet, look up who the property owner is, send them a piece of mail, because usually they'll have a mailing address. If it's that property, they do live there. It's just not a very habitable place. And you can just, as you're walking past some places, driving past some places called Driving for Dollars, you can kind of find some houses that just look like they would be great for flipping, and nobody in the right mind wants to buy it to live there immediately. So those are some great deals. And we'll go through, whenever Brian Snyder comes in next week, he'll talk about all the different ways on top of this. But those are the really popular ones. And then paying for the house. So after you find a deal that you think is a good potential flip, how the heck do you pay for it, or how much do you pay for it? So there's like three basic ones. The most common one you'll hear people talk about, they call it MAO. This is MAO. It's not for mayonnaise. And then it stands for maximum level offer, which I guess we'll go over these three things first. ARV, CCNC, and Reno dollars. These two are like my kind of shorthand. But ARV is like after repair value, after renovation value. There's 1,000 different things people call it, but it's always ARV. So it's how much is it worth after I flip it, what would be on the market for. So if it was, $100,000 what it's worth for after you renovate it, you times it by 65%, you get 65,000 minus however much it costs you to renovate it. So out of 65,000, say it costs you 30,000 to repair, then it's a $35,000 profit that you're making, which is pretty nice. And then for simple math, I guess, you just take what you can sell it for minus everything you paid for it. That's how you also get the profit. And then there's also return on investment, which is getting more like if you're going to invest in the stock market, you might make 10% over the long term. Whereas in flipping, you can make like 50 to like 150 to 200% return every year on your money, which is what's really attractive about this, because you can double your money pretty much really quickly. That's just saying the profit over what we paid for it. And that's return on investment. Does anybody have any questions on any of these things, or like what the heck closing costs and commission are? We're good.
Why do you times by 65%?
That's an arbitrary number people use. You can change it to whatever you want. So people feel like that's a comfortable number where you have enough money made in profit that you don't have to worry about factoring the closing costs and commission. Because there's some fixed costs in there and there's some variable costs. If you budget 8 to 10% of the purchase price for buying and selling it, as, for closing costs, like if you're gonna buy a stock, it might charge you $7 for like trading a piece of stock on like E-Trade or something. If you want to buy a $100,000 house in real estate, it could cost you like $8,000 to $10,000 at the closing table when you buy it, additionally on top of the purchase price. And then commission, if you're buying it, if you're selling a house with an agent, they usually charge like 5 to 6% of the selling price. So there's a lot of things that go into it, but usually it's worth its weight in gold. That's what the closing costs are. And I guess for renovation costs, that's also a hard thing that's figured out for some people, is how much things cost. Like, if you have a kitchen, how much is it going to cost me to kind of do the kitchen? And I'll see if I can find out. There's a guy who pretty much gave us a property tour last semester, and he gave us a whole budget. Let's see if we have this. Okay, so he sent us this. Pretty much, he flips houses all the time. We're gonna go visit this house probably at some point later in this semester, whenever it's close to being finished. They wanted to condemn it. It's in Lawrenceville, which is a really hot place, as most of you guys know. He bought it for like $100,000. You can or I guess 110,000 you can see here. He's putting 160 into it and figures a $10,000 slush fund for anything that could go wrong. So total investment's 280. I'm gonna try to sell it for around 400, I think. This is saying, him and his business partner, how much money they have tied up into it. Best case scenario, goes up 425. What they're expecting is 400. Worst case, 375. They sell for 375. They're still making 63,000 on it. It's just a higher priced property, which is nice. So the investor, who's not touching it at all, makes 21.7%. He's making whatever the average of these is, which is nice, probably around 50, or it's around 50%, based on the money he has invested. And then this is the renovation budget that we're figuring. And honestly, the easiest way is just call a contractor, and if you find a place that's a good flip, as long as it's not like he has to go tomorrow, usually they need like a week's heads up. If you just say, hey, can you give me an estimate on the repairs for this place, they'll just come in and give you a free estimate. So that's the safest way because everyone's doing the work too. And give them like 24 to 48 hours to figure out, all the nitty-gritty details about what materials they want to use and all that stuff. And also conversely, I guess, when we're back for, this sucks. So, for figuring out the reno budget, say if you found a house that you could buy for like $30,000, and it's worth $100 afterwards, and then you're trying to figure out how much should I put into that house to make it worth $100,000, you could tell a contractor, can you do this property for $50,000, or less? Can you make it, with a nice kitchen? You can show them some pictures online of things you might have seen from comparable properties. So if they say, yeah, I can do this, this quality for under $50,000, and you say, okay, 50 in the renovations plus the 30 for the purchase price, and we sell it for 100, you can make 20,000 bucks off this. And then you factor the closing costs and commission, you make a little bit less. But then you can just adjust the budget and things like that. But so you can either give them a budget, or you can ask them how much it would cost them to do that. That's kind of how you figure out the reno cost. Does anybody have any questions on this? Because this is probably the most confusing part of figuring out what things cost. Like, any questions on how you figure out any of these things? Okay, then everyone, sir.
Not necessarily about the cost, but how would you go about finding reputable contractors? Is it best to go through word of mouth, or?
You could, if you see a flip happening in progress, that's usually the best way to find a contractor. They're going to be there. If you, see a class they're doing a lot of work on it, you can actually walk in and see their personal work and tell right there if it's good quality or bad quality, plus you meet the group of guys that are working on it. If you call a company and meet with one guy and assume like the 30 people who work underneath them are good guys, but if you go in there and just say, hey, how can I reach you guys? Usually have a sign or a business card or something. That's the best way to reach them, but it takes some legwork and just kind of meeting and greeting them. Otherwise, you could go on like Facebook groups. There's a lot of Facebook ones for Pittsburgh or any area you guys live in, that you want to flip in, and it'll be like a, for Pittsburgh, it's Pittsburgh Real Estate Investors group on Facebook. You just type in Pittsburgh flipping, Pittsburgh investing for real estate, and you'll find just send a post, hey, I need a good contractor, and then interview the guys and all that stuff. And we'll talk about whenever the female flipper comes in, we'll talk about how to make sure they don't screw you over, because that happens a lot with flips, so the contractors go way over budget, end up charging you for it. So there's different things you can do contractually to make sure they don't do that to you. And then how to pay for the house. Like I was saying, the after renovation value. So you can call a realtor, and they can pretty much tell you based on that area and the condition that it will be how much it's worth. You can go on Trulia and Zillow and all that stuff, which takes a little more time to find your own comps. Or you can just guess by walking in and saying, yeah, I think this will sell for like $200,000 with no information backed up. I don't recommend that, but I know people who do it. They don't typically be successful in this industry, but they do it. If you're doing it for 20, 30 years, sure, you can just guess based on the feel, not for starting out. And then for the closing costs and commission, the title company is pretty much the person who handles everything. So they're going to get all the documents here. You don't have to worry about a single thing. And usually, you don't have to worry about paying them either. It's going to come out of the sale of the house. But if you just ask them how much it's going to cost to close this property address and this is the purchase price, they'll tell you exactly how much it's going to cost for the buy side and sell side. Because there's so many of them, they want to be very aggressive to get your business. They don't make any money until the house actually closes, but they'll always be happy to give you a free estimate, and it's going to be 99.9% accurate too, which is nice. And then for a guesstimate, if you don't want to call a title company, if you just want to do it really quickly on the fly, if you budget 8 to 10% of the purchase price and the sell price, you will be like over budgeting by a lot, so that's getting you way more of a cushion than you absolutely need. And also, if you're using a bank to get money, sometimes they charge you some certain fees on top of it too, like $1,000 for an origination fee. And you want to make sure if you're using money from a bank, you get any upfront fees for the loan too, which is a big deal. But there are some cheap ways you can get loans for places with like hardly any money down, and you can renovate a house, surprisingly. That's also later in the topic. How to create a renovation budget, which is like the biggest thing where you can make or break a deal based off of like the renovation budget. If you think it's going to cost $40,000 to renovate, but then you get into it and it's going to cost you $80,000, you make no money pretty much, and you can actually lose money on it. So that's the most important thing you want to look at. Like I said, you can bring a contractor with you to the property, and the longer time you give them for the estimate, the more accurate it'll be. If you say I need an estimate in the next hour, chances are it's going to be, I don't know, $10,000 window besides both sides. I've seen people that forget to even do all the doors and windows on a place, which could be $5,000 total if it needs all around. And we've had to remind them and stuff like that. So giving them enough time is great. That's where if there's a lot of competition on the property, it could be a downside. But you could guesstimate the repairs too, based on like going, say if it needs a new kitchen, you could literally go on Lowe's or Home Depot and find out what's the kitchen going to cost based on the materials, but then you get to factor the labor in. So you could look at average labor rates in Pittsburgh, or you can call contractors and say how much it would cost you to put in a kitchen if I have the materials, and they can give you some quotes and things like that on the fly. But it's always best to do the first one for the most accurate. And then I guess the worst case scenario, you could write down if you need 7 windows and like some doors and countertops and floors, and you measure the square footage and get every single last detail, you could take it to a contractor and they can pretty much give you a really accurate estimate. Or you could just go online, find the materials you need, add it up, and then add some labor costs, which takes way too much time. It's easier to have a contractor if they're willing to do a free estimate. And then it's always good to be really conservative. So like, if you, for a kitchen, this is from just seeing enough of them, if you make an average, like a South Oast style kitchen, it's going to be like 10 grand. If you want to have like a $200,000 to $300,000 house kitchen, it's going to be like around 20,000. So it's just, you can do a kitchen for $10,000 if you needed to. You can do a kitchen for $100,000 if you were crazy enough, and people do that. But it's a matter of the quality. The more higher quality, the more you spend pretty much. So you just figure between 8 to 10 for a small kitchen on the low end, and then 20 for an average size nice kitchen to like a $200,000 house. You can just discount the quality between that pretty much. If you just want to have an average kitchen, somewhere maybe in the middle, if it's a larger kitchen, increase a couple thousand for that, more countertop space. That's a good way to get a rough estimate without a contractor being in there. And then obviously higher quality costs more. So if you're flipping in a neighborhood where $100,000 house is the top of the budget, you don't want to put $30,000, $40,000 into a kitchen. But if you're going to go into a place that's selling for $500,000, like this one that I was showing you before, in the slide they plan on selling it for $425,000 on the high end, they're going to put $60,000 into the kitchen because they can get it out of the property and still make money. That's factored into the budget. Actually, I wonder if they actually have budgeted for the kitchen. They put $16,000 into the kitchen, so they're not even doing that much in the kitchen, actually, surprisingly. Which, this is a smaller place. I know there's like maybe 5 or 6 people that are in this group that have seen this place. It's a smaller kitchen. But that's actually not bad at all. Back to the slide. So for structuring the deal, when you sign like a piece of paper saying that you're going to buy a house, it seems pretty daunting, but there's 1,000 ways to get out of the deal. Like, you can make up pretty much anything you get out of the deal and walk away. It's completely in the buyer's favor and really not in the seller's favor at all, which is scary when you're the seller, because you could cancel the deal and walk away at any time. One is the inspection. If you're buying a crappy house, and the inspection is going to come back saying that the house has some flaws, whether it's a crack in the floor or just like something's kind of crooked. They develop 8 to 9 pages of just something because you're paying them. They can't just say, yeah, it's good enough, and then just pay them $500 for the inspection. So once the inspection's done, anything you see in there that you don't like, you can just cancel the agreement and just get out of it. So there's 1,000 different ways. Also, if you want to do a radon test, which is like $200, you can, in certain areas there's higher radon for mold. If you see there's mold, just say it's contingent upon us testing for mold. If there is mold, we'll get out of it. Then you can just do a mold test and get out of it. The only way that you really can't get out of it is if you don't do any of this stuff, you just say, hey, I'm sorry, I don't like this house anymore, I just want to walk away and find something else, then that's when you kind of get into sticky situations. But you're crazy if you do that because there's 1,000 different ways to get out of it. And then back to that, there's hand money. So it's kind of like whenever I don't know if anyone in here is engaged or married. I know I'm not looking forward to it anytime soon. But it's kind of the same idea where if you propose to somebody, you're not actually legally married to them, you're just giving them a very valuable piece of jewelry, saying if I walk away, you can keep this pretty much. Same thing with what they call hand money or earnest money. If you're going to offer someone to buy their house, it's a big deal. It's a long-term thing where you're going to pay a couple $100,000 maybe for their house. So, what are you going to give them for consideration to say that you're serious about it? Same as an engagement ring, you can say, I'll give you $1,000, it'll go into an escrow account, so neither one of you touch it. But, that's kind of my promise, saying that if I walk away for none of those above reasons and the contingencies, you get to keep that $1,000. And they say, all right, that's kind of make me feel better. Same as if, you're dating somebody and then you cheat on them and then they keep the ring, they kept the money because you kind of blew the deal. So, similar situation. Just don't blow the deal. Instead, just use some contingencies and you get your ring back or your money back. So consider like an option agreement too. If anyone's familiar with stocks, you can buy like the option to buy a stock or the option to sell a stock. This is kind of the option to buy or sell a stock, which is reflected back to wholesaling. Like with John, you pretty much have a piece of paper saying, I have the option to buy this house. You find somebody who will buy that house, and you put the deal together and make the price difference. But that's not today's topic. And also closing date. So if in the summertime, the houses typically sell more. The wintertime, they sell less. So if it's October and they want to close, in December, no one's really, first off, you have to do the repair work in the wintertime, which anytime like you do a roof or anything where it's open, contractors hate doing that, plus the snow can always cause water damage. So you really never want to do a renovation in the wintertime unless it's a good contracting crew that says that they can do it well. But you want to try to focus on the spring and the summer and places where it's warmer out to do any renovations, because everything can be open, it's no big deal. So keep in mind the date that you choose to actually close on the property. You can put an offer today and close 7-8 months from now if you wanted to, depending on what you guys agree upon. And then I guess the last one, putting a leash on contractors. So the word contracting contractors is really important because no one really does contracts with contractors. They'll maybe walk through the property and say, yeah, here's a budget detail list of $40,000 worth of materials we need. Sign it saying you agree to the budget, and we'll move on. You agree to the budget, but there's no actual legal information that says if we go over budget, that whoever is liable to pay the extra amount. Usually they charge the person who hired them, and the contractor doesn't like to be on the hook for it. There's a property that I might show as an example in a little bit when we search for how to get the after renovation value. They bought it for $55,000. The contractor said, yeah, we can do it for $38,000, that's not a problem. It came in $20,000 over budget after everything, and he kept saying, every time she would ask, oh, don't worry about it, we're on budget, it's all right. We're only coming a couple $1,000s over, it's no big deal. And then he said, hey, we're $20,000 over, here's the bill for it. And she was like, you gotta be kidding me, I'm not paying, that's everything that I was making profit. I asked you 1,000 times, you never told me. And he was like, well, but nothing was in writing saying that she had to pay for it. So she called me and she's like, what the hell do I do? And I said, well, you knew you were gonna pay a little bit more, and that's because you wanted the sparkly grin and things like that. So I said, figure out how much of it was your decision, how much of it you had no decision of, which she decided on $7,000 of the upgrades, which was more than she should have, but the place looks nice. And I said, just tell me to pay $7,000, he has to cover the rest of the $13,000, and if he doesn't like it, there's no legal contract saying you can pay the $7, so you're being generous saying you're gonna pay $7. And she was gonna pay the $20 and just call it done and just move on to the next deal. And so she called him and he was like, yeah, I just figured it doesn't hurt to ask. So some people will just pay the $20 and not question me. And I was like, damn, this guy's crazy. But yeah, so she got out of it. She's only paying $7 for it, which is all things that she's responsible for. But for the next time we use this guy, we're gonna have it, here's the budget. If you go a penny over the budget, you have to get my signature approving that you can spend that money. Otherwise, you're liable to pay the difference. So he's gonna be very, very conscious on how much money he's spending on materials and his labor. Otherwise, he's paying every extra adage, and she has to be updated every single time. As well as he did it really quick. He did a whole entire house in a month, which was crazy, from December to January, which was really crazy how fast he did it. He was really good. But some contractors will drag it off for a long time, and they'll ask you for more money as you go through the project. So you can just say, I'll give you half throughout the project, and then I'll give you half at the end of it, pretty much. And if they give you an estimate of maybe, hey, we can do it in 8 weeks, just say, okay, well, here's a contract saying 10 weeks you have to have it done. Otherwise, every week or every day longer, you lose X amount of dollars. Every week you go over, you lose $1,000 off of what I was agreeing to pay you. And that gives them the incentive. If they say oh, we don't want to do that, if you give them a cushion of 2 weeks extra based on their estimate, and they do not want to do that, that's a red flag. You shouldn't work with them anyways. So if you give them a cushion, and they say, yeah, it's not a problem, we'll leave on time, and then make sure that you can actually, hit the date that you want to go to market and kind of capture the most amount of buyers for that time, which is important. And what time is it? Do we have the time? 9:30. Okay, cool. Thank you. And then how to get funding. This is the biggest, I guess, question for most of the people in this room because we're paying money for college, and most of us don't own a house right now. Some in this room actually do, which is cool, but most of us don't. So, how do you get money to flip a house? You can go to a bank, private loan, but you have to show some sort of income or have a business partner that has some sort of income. Some of them more difficult for some of us, some of us not. Personal loans, which you can go friends, family, or yourself give the money, which you can always do. There's hard money lenders, which a lot of flippers actually do use. So they're gonna. It sounds like a loan shark, but it's really not. It's like a short-term loan. So somebody says like, hey, I want 10% interest on like a 1-year loan. 10% for a loan sounds crazy, but if you're asking for like $50,000, that's $5,000 you're paying interest. But if you're making like $40,000 on a deal, that $5,000 doesn't really hurt you as much. And then, I guess conversely, the one property I showed you guys on here in Lawrenceville, there's private money investors who force money down his throat because he's getting like a 22 to 25% return all the time, and that's like he secures that with his own money. He's saying, if I don't make this on the project, I will back it up with my own personal money. And they say, well, that's great. It's a risk-free, pretty much 22% return on my money. That's insane. So like, there's people all over the country that just like do not want the money back after the place sells because they were making such a great return. In around 6 months, they're making a crazy return, like $100 grand. So after you have a couple of flip projects, you can actually, people will throw money at you because you have a success track record, and which is really cool. But in the beginning, one of the best ways to start is maybe partner up with somebody. We're gonna have speakers coming in who are flippers, and they actually are open to partnering with a lot of people. So if you find a good deal and you have a business plan and you just need some money and like maybe some advice, you can easily partner up with somebody. And a lot of them do work together to flip certain houses because it limits the risk. If it goes bad, they're not losing all the money; they're just losing half of it, and then they get to use the expertise of both people. So that's one option you can go to as well. Which, if you want any connections, let me know. There's collateral. I know some parents of like students that I go to school with, where their parents took out a home equity line of credit, which is what HELOC stands for. So, you take a equity out of your house that you currently own, and you invest into a property. And there's surprisingly a lot of people do that. I guess parents have a lot of faith in their kids, which is great, and give them credit for that. And then you can also do owner financing, for part of it at least. Owner financing is my favorite because you can go to somebody that has a house and pretty much say, if you want $100,000 for the house, I'll give you maybe $1,000 for 100 months until it's paid off. And they say, yeah, that sounds great. You get just what you asked for. What they don't typically factor in is that there's no interest you're paying, so you're getting an interest-free loan. And then you can usually structure it where if you just stop paying to take ownership of the house back, so that if after 1 or 2 months you're like, this is a bad deal, I just don't want this house anymore, you can just have it revert back to them. So contracts are like your best friend. So any of your class that deal with like contracts or any like legalities, learn about it because it affects you in 1,000 different things in life. Any questions on financing at all? That's like a fuzzy area maybe that I didn't go too far into. About like how to apply for things or like where to find people or anything like that. Alright, everyone here knows about financing then. For renovating, this is like the fun part. Pretty much what you see on TV, it's a lot of fun. It's where you get to pick out what things look like. And this is like a big deal, I guess, because if I was to design a place that I like a lot of people might not like it. So you have to kind of put your own personal opinions aside and kind of go for what the mass market appeals to. Because the more people you have to like your house, usually more people bidding on your house, and the higher the price you get for it, the more money you make. So we're going to go over how to budget, styles, layout, kind of the best bang for your buck, and some other things as well. So for, I guess, budgeting for it, like I was saying before, the contractor, you can tell them that you're going to spend $40,000 on this house. If I can make it look like this for $40,000, I'll make X amount of dollars, and this will be a good deal. So in my opinion, it's kind of like a return on investment thing. So if you go in maybe an awful school district and it's like right on the side of a highway and it's really noisy and it's just a dirty place, you don't want to be there, every dollar you put in probably isn't going to really give you much return back. But if you're in an amazing school district and it's a quiet, safe neighborhood where you can walk around and it's a really cute house, every dollar you put in can maybe double your money or triple your money or like a 1.5% return, or it depends on things like that. But the better the location, I guess. In real estate, it's always like location, location, location is the tagline. But the better location, the higher your return on investment would be. So that's really, you want to find a bad property in a nice place, and you can make a lot of money flipping, in a nutshell. And also, a lot of buyers are conscious enough they don't want to buy that nice house on the block because when they go to sell it, they're not going to get the full value. Where you buy an average price house and everything else is around you is renovated, nice, and going up, then it increases your value of the house. So they're okay getting a nice looking house on the block as long as they don't pay for it. So it comes back into like what you think you can sell it for. And everybody wants to impress their friends and family because, if you say you buy, 100 shares of Apple or even a share of Apple, and you tell your parents, hey, I just bought some Apple shares, they're going to be like, great, that's good for you. But if you, buy a house and you're renovating it, everyone wants to see the pictures for it, all that stuff. If you buy a house to live in, everyone's like, look at my new house, put it on Facebook, everyone's seeing it, wow, this is how nice your house looks, and we can't wait to have a housewarming party and all that stuff. And so everyone wants a place that they pretty much visualize showing their friends and family and having people over. So it doesn't need to be that expensive for these little finishing touches, but if you have like a touchless faucet, or just some really simple things like LED lights underneath the like cabinetry, you can make it white if you're not into like the crazy stuff, but if you get like somebody who likes to have some entertainment and parties, you can do that. You know, speakers in the walls, if you're going to take out the walls anyways, you can easily put, you know, speakers into the wall and surround sound throughout the whole entire house. It might cost you an extra $1,000, but you can charge someone an extra $5,000 because no other house on the market has surround sound at maybe a lower price point or something. So little things that just stick in people's memory that make it seem like a really cool house can actually sell it for way more because no other house has it, so they have no idea what it's worth. And then just a fun fact, the average person in America, you know, I'm not saying it's the first house, second house, third house, or what age they are, but the average, they can get pre-approved for $140,000. So that's kind of like, if you don't know the market that well, that's the price that you're going to have the maximum amount of buyers that can afford that house. If you go to, you know, $500,000, a lot less people in America can afford a $500,000 house as opposed to 140, obviously. And it increases from those two ranges. So you want to set a budget price on the work and quality of the area. So look at the comparable properties, look at the inside, and if everything has a beautiful kitchen that's on the market currently, you have to have a beautiful kitchen too, otherwise no one wants to, you know, buy it. If you can try to make it nicer than everything else in the market, but price it the same as everything else in the market, any of us would walk into a place and say this is a great deal, and if you buy it for a good price in the beginning, that's where you usually make your money, you'll typically be fine. And then get a quote from a contractor, and then ask if they can be done with the budget. This is the thing I've been saying over and over again. Easiest way to do it, just work out the numbers, simple algebra, and figure out what your actual budget would be based on a certain profit you want to make. Some people in Pittsburgh want to say they make, you know, I won't do a deal for, if I don't make $30,000 on a deal, and they're maybe doing one or two in a year because there's very far and between for lower priced properties. There's some people that say if I can make $10,000 on a deal, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And you can find a lot of properties, you can outbid a lot of people, so it really depends on how much you think your time is worth and how much risk reward you want. But for the styles and layouts, which we're going to have somebody come in 2 weeks from now and kind of show us everything she does and all that amazing work she does. But you know, appeal to everyone. The nice tagline is like, give people a champagne taste on a Budweiser budget, because everyone wants to have nice things but not really pay the full price for it, which is a nice thing. So if you can give someone something that looks great, like surround sound or a touchless faucet or heated bathroom floors, it's a small area, but it's not going to cost them any more than a regular average house that somebody else's. And also look into like 2 bedrooms, about like 5% of the market actually will buy a 2-bedroom. For 3 bedrooms, it's maybe like 60. Once you get to 4 and above, it's more popular because the average person has 2 kids. But now they also have an office, so they're using a 1-bedroom as an office. The 4-bedroom is kind of the standard people look for, typically, ideally. But like this one property in Lawrenceville, he's taking it from, you know, a 2-bedroom, and he's actually adding an addition on the back to make it a 4-bedroom. So that's why he bought it for such a cheap price, because everyone said, oh, it's only 2 bedrooms, you know, we can't flip that. And he said, well, I'll just build an addition on the back of it, and we can make it 4 bedrooms, or, you know, add an extra washroom in the back, or like a mud room, or another bathroom, and all these extra features by adding onto it. So it might cost him $15,000 to add onto it, but in this area, his return on investment is going to, you know, buy an extra $100,000 if he has a 4-bedroom as opposed to like a 3-bedroom. So that's kind of where he was coming from. That's what he does a lot, is he adds onto houses and sells them for more, which is an interesting approach. Also, one thing to think about when you're looking at property, you'll find a lot of good deals where the bedrooms are on a different floor than the rest of the bedrooms. So if you're like a parent, you don't want to have your kids on a different floor. If the comparable houses in the market, if every house is the same, because usually they are built around the same time, they all have, you know, 1 master bedroom on the top and 2 smaller bedrooms on the bottom, then that's no problem because everyone's used to buying that type in that area. But if it's one house that kind of sticks out, doesn't fit in with the rest, it might be a harder sell. So you can get it for a better deal, which means you can sell for a lesser price and still make money on it, but it's something to consider and not, you know, think you can sell it for way more than you actually can. And also, having a bathroom on the same floor as the bedrooms is really nice, because who wants to like get up in the morning, brush their teeth, and have to go downstairs, or have guests over and have the only bathroom, you know, upstairs when they're in the kitchen or dining room or something like that. So really, it's just maximizing functionality. So when you walk through, just picture living there, and if it seems weird, think about, you know, could I change some walls, or change the flow, or change the layout? I've seen people where they turn dining rooms into a 3rd bedroom, and they just call it a 3rd bedroom, and it sells for way more than if it was a dining room. And it's the same exact room. They just put a door on it. And then I guess the main thing is people usually buy with emotion. When they buy a house, they picture themselves in it. So if you can add some charm or character, I always say to people, add an American flag, because when I look at comparable properties, the higher priced ones in the area always have an American flag in it. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because whenever we're 5 years old in kindergarten, we're saying I pledge allegiance to the flag up until we graduate pretty much. I guess not in high school, that's kind of weird, but ever since we're little, we're kind of saying that I pledge allegiance and for national anthems and sports and all that stuff. So it's kind of like this thing we can associate with. So people tend to like the houses with American flags more than they don't, or at least they pay a higher price for it. So any thing that you can do to make it feel more cozy. So if they flip a house and it's completely vacant, it doesn't feel at home, but if you have some furniture in there, it actually makes it feel like they can visualize themselves living there. Once they visualize living there, they feel like it's their house, and they'll pay whatever price to make sure they don't lose it, which is kind of the strategy of a real estate agent. But yeah, so this is to define, I guess, the two types of flips that I see. There's all facelifts and rehabs. So rehabs are the ones where it's everything is just going really bad, and it needs some serious help, where it's completely gutted. You can't even live in it. It's just really, really bad. And that's where everything needs done. A facelift is if you had, picture your grandmother's house that might be a little bit outdated or anything like that, and it has wallpaper and things haven't been touched since the 50s or the 60s, but everything else is great. The structure of the house is great. Just change the carpet, paint it, maybe new cabinets, and it's good as new, but everyone that's a personal buyer is looking at it and saying, this is an old house, I don't want to buy this. But it could have a new roof on it because grandma kept good care of it or anything like that. So the facelifts are pretty easy. It's a good way to start, and it's a good way to find good deals. Rehabs, you have to get through everything. Usually they're vacant for a couple of years, and there can be issues with pipes and stuff, but you can also get for a super cheap price. And hopefully you'll remember those two distinct things by the picture of Joan Rivers. But back to the staging part, for before and afters, a lot of flippers try to sell a house when it's vacant, and they usually sit on the market for a long time, which decreases the value, and then people just don't, sometimes they don't buy it, so you have to drop the price just to get anyone interested in it. Whereas if you have furniture in there and it looks nice and fits well, like this space right here, I wouldn't know what to do with that, but because they have the furniture there, I can kind of picture, okay, this is where they have the couches, this is where they have the chairs. If you have a small dining room or a small bedroom and it's empty, you might not know how big your bedroom or dining room set is, and you can say, well, I can't put my dining room table here, I'm never going to be able to use the space, my bed won't fit in here. If you put, a bed in a room, you say, oh, a bed fits in here, this is great. Because it's really hard to judge spaces when there's nothing in it, it's empty. So staging usually costs $1,000 to $1,500, but usually you can have them stage the house, and then if you sweet talk them, they'll just have you pay them after you sell the place. You can use the money from the proceeds, which is nice. For vendors for materials, there's 1,000 different places. One of the, I guess, the easiest places is almost like Craigslist for flippers or construction guys. You can go on Facebook and find this. You can go on just local websites or Craigslist even, where they're going to say, you know what, I did this bathroom, I had to buy it in bulk to get a certain price, I have a lot of tile, I don't know what to do with it, I'll sell it to you for a discount, and you can get really good deals on that stuff. If you kind of have a small contracting crew, if you have a larger contracting crew, they're going to do it themselves, and they're going to source it themselves because they buy through special, discounted suppliers anyways. If you, at some point you plan on doing 10 houses in a year and you're going to use the same toilet for everything, you can try to find, a place that sells you 10 toilets at a discounted price after you've been in it for a while. Also, there's local real estate investor groups, which is really one thing you can do if you're serious about this, investing in flipping or long-term rentals. Joining an investor group, usually they don't charge you anything if you're a student, where you just cry wolf and say you're broke. And they'll let you join for free. They give you 20% off Lowe's and Home Depot, as well as other things you can do. And there's thousands of investor funds in each one. There's 3 main ones in Pittsburgh, and you can pretty much use them as a tool or a source of information. You can post questions on their Facebook group. I know a lot of the guys in this organization who were from last semester connected with a lot of the guys and already asked them a lot of questions and things like that. And they're here to kind of help, because there's not a lot of real estate investors. It's kind of a niche market. So people like to talk about it and share their experiences and help young investors more than you'd think, actually. There's also discount stores, which is just joints like Ollie's or Big Lots, and just some stores that have discounted products that still look good. Contractors always have connections. You can usually go to Home Depot or Lowe's and buy it there, but you're gonna pay a premium price. And then my favorite is the scratch and dent stores. All my furniture and appliances and everything come from a Sears outlet scratch and dent place. And especially on Black Friday or on Christmas, they have crazy good deals. And they'll have maybe a dent on the side of the refrigerator that's really big, but if you put it up against the wall, no one's ever gonna see it. So you can get something for $200 that costs $1,000 because there's this ugly dent on it, but you just hide it up against the wall and it still works fine, because it can be brand new, but when they were shipping it, it got a dent. So that's a really cheap way to get good prices, which is my favorite. And then for selling, which is also the biggest point because you don't get paid until you sell. Up until this point, you're either selling out money unless you get funding from somebody else, but still you're not getting reimbursed until you sell it. So figuring out what the price is at, there's three main aspects of the market to look at when you're trying to figure out what it can sell for. There's the comparable properties, what has sold in the past, hopefully a year. If there's not that many that sold in the past year, if it's a slower market, you have to go back sometimes 2 years. That's usually the maximum you want to do. And the smallest area you can do around the property is the best. The further out you go, the less accurate it is. And then for competition, that's what's currently active on the market. So if there's 10 houses active on the market that are like really similar to yours, so like townhouses where everything really is the same layout, you can make sure that for your quality, you're pricing it attractive in that range, not whatever you think the property is worth, but whatever is actually competitive against them. In some instances, I've had people hold out until the property sells because the price is so low that it's obviously a really good deal. They wait to put the house on the market until that one sells in a week or two because it's going to sell fast, and they list it on the market, and that actually works out pretty well. And for turnover, if houses are selling in less than like 30 days in the market, that's pretty risk-free for like real estate. Like you're going to have a buyer lined up for your house. If it's taking houses, over a year to sell, it's probably not an area you want to flip in because you're going to take over a year to probably sell your house, just because it's the market. And that's kind of where you're going to get into holding costs, where you pay real estate taxes and utilities and things like that for every day you own the property. So the faster it sells, the better it is to get in, get out quick, and get your money. And then for marketing, after you figure out what it's worth, you can sell it on your own or with an agent. I have a lot of flippers that I work with that I encourage them to sell it on their own first. That way they can cut out the 6% and we can have more money to put into the next investment, and then they put it in the buy side. Also, when I work with them in the beginning, sometimes they don't think I'm worth 6%, so I said, okay, try to sell it on your own for the first couple months, and they can't do it, and they call me and I sell it in a couple days, and then they say, okay, I'll stop doing that, I'll just use you every time. So either way, it works on your advantage. The main thing is exposure. So like for one place that I make sure you guys we have a little bit of time, she wants to try to sell it on her own first. I said, okay, any local real estate office in the area, go into their doors and give them 1,000 flyers or how many flyers, depending on how big the agency is, and just say, I'm selling this house, I just flipped it. Do you have any buyers? I'll pay you a commission. Don't even worry about that. Just bring anybody in. We want to sell it for this price. And that's comparable to the MLS, where they would just see a property that comes on the market, as well as just it's easy to find agents' information because they want a lot of customers and clients and leads. So you can just Google people's names and the zip code or area, and you're going to find all the popular agents that are in that area. Send them an email, give them a phone call, just tell them about the property, and that can be almost comparable to having an agent. Some buyers agents are just finicky about doing it for sale by owner deal. They'd rather have it go through the proper channels, but it's all one and the same. So I encourage a lot of my flippers to do for sale by owner first and give it a shot. Like I said, holding costs, there's taxes, utilities, and also opportunity costs. Like I said, if you're buying a property and you're sitting on the money for maybe a whole entire year, that's money you could have been putting into another project. So if there's one deal that you say, I can make $50,000 on this, but it might take a year to sell, when you could do 5 properties that make you 10 to 15 on each one, and it's less risk because they're turning faster, and you're doing more properties. So I'd rather do like ones where you make less money and quickly. You have a question?
Yeah.
Go for it.
What's the best place to find historical data on like turnover rates or past sold prices, completed listings, stuff like that?
So if you're buying with an agent, you don't pay anything for that agent to buy the property, and they have access to the MLS, which is really easy. For Trulia and Zillow, you can find that out too. It'll tell you how many days it was on the market for, which you can easily do that. It doesn't take too long to do that. But I guess I'll show you guys like the MLS. You can kind of see what it looks like from like an agent's perspective and how easy it is to kind of get into that. Okay, so alright, somebody give me their property address. Just raise your hand. So what's someone's address? Anybody?
363 Simple.
363 Simple?
Yeah.
Is that the zip code 15213?
Yep.
Alright, so we have there, we'll do a half-mile radius. We'll do sold within maybe 180 days. I don't think South is that popular, but we'll see. How many bedrooms do you have?
It turned into 4.
Okay. It's like a 4 with a question mark?
Yeah, they turned the dining room into bedrooms.
Okay, we'll call it 3 because other houses can also turn their dining room into a bedroom. So we're just going to look for a half-mile radius, sold within the past 180 days, that has 3 bedrooms. We'll see if we get anything. There are only 2 places that sold in the past 180 days. You can pull it up. You can see this is kind of like one. It's a row house. We just apply a row house. Only 1 picture though. and it sold for $185,000 for cash, and it sold in 37 days. So it sold in a month pretty much for $185 when they listed for $165. So it sold for way more than they were asking because South Bay was a popular place. The next one listed at $140 pretty much, sold for $146, also more than what they asked for, cash, and in 10 days. So South Bay sells pretty quick. Just not a lot of inventory sales within like your block, I guess. So you could always expand it to like 365 days or like 400. It's easy, and it's still the same two properties. So in the past year, quarter mile, not that much. You get a half mile, and you have 15 properties. So a half mile is a little bit larger, obviously. You have a lot. So you can pretty much go through, find which one looks closest like yours, and then like say if this was really close to yours, you say okay, 162. You go through, newer floors, everything looks pretty clean, it's staged, the cabinets in the kitchen look a little bit older, so that's kind of the quality of a $162,000 list price. Stainless steel appliances, through stairs, there's a tripping hazard, but everything's pretty much finished and painted. And I guess, it's a big space, high ceilings, and you kind of figure out which one of these 15 places are closest to mine, and what it lists for, what it sells for, and how many days it's selling. And if you go through all these places, you're going to sell in 30 days pretty much, which is why everyone's paying more than the list price in South Oakland, because it's a good investment. You can sell it tomorrow and you get your money back. But this is, as easy as I can see all the 15 properties. On Trulia and Zilli, type in the address, go to the map, and then hope that the information is kind of accurate. It's not always accurate in my case that I've seen, so I think that doesn't cost anything to make it on the buy side. You might as well use the extra piece. And on the selling side is where you can cut them out of the deal, and you can kind of do it yourself for a little bit. On the buy side, since it doesn't cost anything, you might as well. You don't need an agent if you're going to try to buy off the market. So if you're approaching somebody like, your neighbor or whatever, you just say, hey, I'll buy your house, and you can kind of just say how much you want for your house and try to find somebody who'll give you the money for that deal because it's a cheap price, and you'll split the profit with them for kind of managing it. Then you wouldn't need to use an agent. It's a big one. But does that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay. Very convenient. It's fun to look at every time. But let's see. What is this? This is a slideshow. That pretty much goes everything for selling. Any other questions on selling at all? Appreciate you asking those questions. If anyone has any questions afterwards, or when they find a property or anything along the way, they can ask me as well. For what price? You can ask a realtor, and I can find the comps pretty much for you to figure out through analysis what it should go for, or you can do your own research. Also, what can the market support? So, like, you might have, you can just look at the neighborhood and figure out, in general, what places in South Bay sell for. If the highest anything sold for, the 3-bedroom, kind of in that condition, was $200,000, just don't expect to get more than $200,000. I think that's like overestimating because it's the highest priced place. I usually try to factor in like whatever the average price is, try to just expect that, and if you expect the worst, and then over deliver, you're pretty much gonna make money in all cases. And then how long you're willing to hold it. So if you are willing to hold a property, you say, what, I can pay on the interest on this loan for the next year, and I can find if I have to hold on to it for a year. It gives you more freedom to ask a higher price and wait for the right buyer to come around. But if you only want to, if you want to get in and out in the next 30 days in South Bay, you have to list these prices aggressively, which is what those places did. They always list them for less, and people overpaid for them. But they just wanted to get rid of it quickly, which is why they got rid of it quickly, because they asked a low price. And then, I've been saying this to a lot. Would you want to buy the house that you're flipping and selling for any other house in the market currently? Just make it more attractively, like from it's almost like a marketing product, like anything in a company. If you have a product, how's it going to be positioning against other competitors for just any company out there? Between Samsung and iPhone, or whether it's some kind of lotion, you always have competitors out there, and consumers are going to choose between the two really comparable properties or comparable products. So you just want to get good positioning. And the real estate market usually moves pretty slow, so it's good to get a good handle on the market. For marketing, for sale by owner versus agent, agent you pay 6%. For sale by owner, I said you can email, pass out flyers, post online, which you can do for sale by owners for Trulia and Zillow, and also on Craigslist too if you wanted to. Calling agents and also knocking on neighbors' doors. I do that for open house, where I just knock on people's doors and say, hey, who do you want, your friend or family, that you want to be your new neighbor? And they actually have people that are like, oh yeah, my friend Susie, I love them the next to her. She should see the house this Sunday, and they buy the house. And it's like, well, all I do is knock on a door and find the buyer. It's pretty easy. But it doesn't always happen that way. It's just like a shot in the dark. You never know if it would work. Those are all really the things. There's also other creative ideas, but those are the thin ones. So in summary, I guess, you make the most money. You either make or lose the money when you buy it. So if you pay too much, you matter what you do with it, you're not going to make enough money unless you just sell it right after you buy it for a short loss and just kind of save your time at least. But if you just buy a good deal, even if you don't even want the house, you can usually sell it for a profit. The one guy, the flipper who I showed that one house, he bought a house from a flipper for a cheap price, and he just sold it to another flipper. So he bought it for $20,000, and he's selling it for $52,000. So like the guy originally bought it for like $10,000, and somebody else went for $52 because it was such a good deal when he first had it. So they pretty much just passing it along, making money along the way, a couple $1,000s, and they never touched it. So it's, you know, if you find a good deal, you can always make money on it between wholesaling like John in the back, where you don't need to even use any of your own money, just a piece of paper, or you can buy it and sell it to somebody else, but that costs more money and it takes a lot more time. Also, you know, return on investment per dollar spent, so the area is the most important thing. School district is the biggest deal. And then, you know, if you're close to a highway or if it's noisy, no one wants to live next to that. If you have a, you know, old property that's falling apart next to you, it's an eyesore, you don't want to live next to that either. Just walking through, just saying, you know, what would be a reason somebody wouldn't like this place? Just think of like the most, you know, nagging person you can think of in your life. What would they say about this place? You know, somebody's very pessimistic, and you come up with some reasons. Then you just try to figure out ways to overcome those objections. Either that, or you have to lower the price. Also, the size of the property. If it's a small house, you limit your market of buyers. Number of bedrooms is a big deal, and you know, also the size of the yard is a big one. If they have kids, they want a bigger yard. If they have kids, they want a flat yard. If they have animals, they usually want a fenced yard, or at least enough space for them to actually go to the bathroom, things like that. Walkability in the neighborhood, just anything that you can kind of really imagine. Within the city, it's different. In the suburbs, it's different. And then appealing to the masses, whenever you renovate, keep the contractors on a budget, or they'll spend more of your money than you want to, which they usually try to do. So you want to have some contracts, and then, you know, make the flip memorable. So it's like the surrounds thing I was mentioning, LED lights, just like touchless spots and certain, you know, heated bathroom floors. At least like one thing that just makes it stand out in their minds. They, you know, they're looking at maybe 10, 20, sometimes 50 or 100 properties. They're really bad buyers, and they're gonna say like, you know, I can't keep these houses straight. I don't remember which one I saw, but they'll always remember the one with the LED lights, or surround sound, or the American flag, or just like something really basic but just sticks out in their minds. That's the one with that feature. And then try to sell on your own for a few months, and then, you know, if you can't do that and you're having no traction, call a realtor and ask for help, and then they'll sell it quickly so you can get on to the next one. And then also building a team around you is nice. If you watch any of the flipping shows, I've seen a couple episodes where they usually have a realtor that works with them, and a contractor, and then somebody does the design work. When you have like a team like that, everyone can go out on the same day and see the place, give estimates, they work well together, they know what they're doing, and it's a little bit easy. So once you kind of get a couple of estimates from people, or work with a realtor or two, sometimes you'll click with certain people, and people who answer your phone calls and are always available more often. Those are the guys you want to work with. And then just my rule of thumb is you always want to just sell as soon as possible in the next one. So if somebody offers you $5,000 less than what you wanted, but nobody else is really interested, just take it. It's cashing out again on the next one. Don't hold out for somebody who might not ever come around, because you'll kick yourself later when that person who offered you the money finds another house, and then you sit on it for another year, and things like that. That's really all I have in short. Next week, we're going to have somebody coming in who he has a master's of education from Duquesne, so he loves to teach. So he's a really good mentor, and he's like one of the largest flippers in Pittsburgh, and he just does a ton of houses. He also has rentals. He's a really laid-back guy, but he makes a ton of money, so you'd never guess it. And he's a really cool guy to talk about how to buy them and what to do. And yeah, you guys will be impressed. But any other questions, like right off the top of your heads, anything like that, before we end up? All right. I appreciate everyone coming. Make sure everyone signed out the sign-out sheet, and then I'm going to be up front if anyone wants, like, you know, chat or have any ideas or anything like that. I'll be here. Thanks, guys.